Thank you all for coming back to the Black Only News and Entertainment Network. Donald Trump's pastor, Robert Morris, was indicted on messing with a 12-year-old child at the time. He was investigated. He's been investigated for almost a year now and was just recently indicted. Now, Trump seems to always surround himself with pedophiles and other white men who loved messing with younger women, or in this instance, girls. I'm going to play you a clip here of Jeffrey Epstein saying that Donald Trump was his best friend. Let's get into this.
And move on to this Epstein story, of which there has been notably no commentary in the Republican media, which was previously very interested in any Epstein type story. So Michael Wolff, we'll call him a controversial
I think this
journalist.
Is part of the reason why is because it's Michael Wolff.
No, it's because it's about Trump and not about a Democrat.
Who's it coming from?
Anyway, Michael Wolff, who wrote Fire and Fury, released a bunch of audio recordings that he had with the late Jeffrey Epstein, specifically talking about his relationship with Donald Trump. Notably, in one, he talks about how close friends he was with Donald Trump for 10 years, and he also seems to have some inside information about the Trump White House after Trump wins in 2016, which would also indicate, he had not been excised from Trump's circle to the extent that Trump had previously claimed. Let's take a listen to that.
So how do you know this?
I think we have a snippet from one of the conversations that I recorded with Epstein, and I think this was in a restaurant in 2017.
His people fight each other.
Right.
And then have outsiders. He sort of poisons the well outside. He will tell 10 people Bannon's a scumbag, and Priest is not doing a good job, and Kelly has a big mouth. And what do you think? Jamie Dimon says that you're a problem, and I shouldn't keep you. And I spoke to Carl Icahn, and Carl thinks I need a new spokesperson. So Kelly, even though I hired Kellyanne's husband, Kellyanne's just too much of a wild one. And then he tells Bannon, I really want to keep you, but Kellyanne hates you.
I have more than dozens. I probably have 100 hours of Epstein talking about the inner workings of the Trump White House and about his long-standing, deep relationship with Donald Trump.
We can put the tear sheet up on the screen here. This is from the Daily Beast that reported on the contents of this audio. They say they did an audio analysis and matched Epstein's voice to previous depositions that he had given. In addition to the comments we played, he also claimed lots of intimate knowledge of Trump's sexual preferences, including liking to cuck other married men, claimed that he had sex with Melania for the first time on the Lolita Express. Make of it whatever you will. I'll just say that, if this was about any Democrat, if it was about Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, whoever, you would endlessly hear about it from Republicans. And, Jeffrey Epstein, the king of global elite pedophilia, having a close relationship with Donald Trump, which again, some of this is already in the public, and they just completely ignore it. It says a lot about their consistency and their principle when it comes to this and literally anything else.
I guess. Yeah, obviously. I don't know. It's just one of those you're telling me that people who are obsessed with pedophilia on the internet are weird, partisan, and don't have consistent standards? Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Definitely true. In terms of the Fire and Fury author, Michael Wolff, the weird thing about Michael Wolff is he had these tapes for years.
Yeah.
Because I think I did a whole monologue about it back in 2020, if I recall. Also, Wolff, if he didn't have the audio, I straight up just wouldn't believe it. Basically, if it's not on tape, I don't believe it, because Wolff made up up so much stuff, particularly in his second book, the one that came out after Fire and Fury, which he was paid like millions of dollars for. So, to a certain extent, unless you literally have it basically on tape, I don't believe it. In terms of whether Epstein's telling the truth, I mean, in terms of like, he lied a lot about a lot of different people. This is running for cover for Trump. This is basically for all the people who are around him. And most of the people who had connections with him are definitely sketchy. In terms of Trump's own comments, the one you can nail him dead to rights was that comment he made in like 1992 where he's like, Jeffrey, he likes him young, where you're like, ugh, well, all right. Well, it's like, well, what knowledge exactly did we have here? In terms of the other,
again, we know he was on the plane a bunch of times.
Yeah, he was on the plane. I'm not running cover here for Donald Trump or whatever. If you want to call out the pedophilia people online, sure, but they have a whole worldview.
It's not just the pedophilia. This has been a big narrative on the right for years, and it's just very convenient that when you have Jeffrey Epstein on tape being like, yeah, he was my bestie, and, plenty of documentary evidence that suggests that that was in fact the case, nothing. Total silence.
Well, they can QAnon themselves into, I remember during Q times, there was this is a throwback, but there was this whole theory about how he was actually in with them so he could get inside knowledge to imprison them all. So, Crystal, you just haven't been exposed enough to the conspiratorial mind.
I guess not.
How they can justify.
It's also funny, too, whenever.
So anyway, that's some of the Jeffrey Epstein tapes that they played that you guys are just listening to. But Trump always seems to be surrounding himself with pedophiles, with people who mess with men, who mess with children. Why is that? Why is he always surrounding himself with that? Now we have his pastor, this clown here that you see on the screen here, this story that you're about to hear, his pastor messing with a 12-year-old girl. Let's get into this one.
The founder of one of North Texas's most prominent megachurches is facing child sex charges. Hello, everybody. I'm Heather Hayes.
And I'm Steve Eager. It's 9 o'clock. An Oklahoma grand jury indicted Gateway Church founder Robert Morris on 5 felony counts. The allegations emerged in June of last year when the Christian Post published a woman's story alleging she was abused by Morris starting at the age of 12. The church first said it was aware of Morris's past, quote, moral failure, then later said it did not know her age, the victim's age, or the extent of the abuse. 3 days later, Morris resigned from Gateway. In November, Gateway announced it removed multiple elders who knew the victim's age at the time of the abuse, and now Morris is facing those criminal charges. Casey Stiegel in studio with the developing story. Casey.
Yeah, good evening. This was a case that garnered national attention last summer and brought down the man who founded one of the largest mega churches in the country. But tonight, disgraced pastor Robert Morris faces more than embarrassing accusations. He's now staring down felony charges.
Keep in mind, people, this is Donald Trump's pastor. Donald Trump's always seems to surround himself with pedophiles, Jeffrey Epstein, and this clown here, this pastor Robert Morris.
For his alleged misconduct. The 5-page multi-county grand jury indictment from Oklahoma contains disturbing details, outlining 5 separate counts of lewd or indecent acts to a child, starting on or about Christmas Day, 1982.
There is no more despicable person you can be than to be messing with children sexually. You have to be a low down dirty. This motherfucker needs to be put under jail. He should be burned first and then put under the jail.
Robert Preston Morris, quote, did intentionally touch or feel with his hand the body or private parts of CC, who was 12 years old at the time. All court documents do not name the victim. The initials, timeline, and details match the allegations made by Cindy Clemishire. And while Fox 4 does not usually identify victims of alleged sexual abuse, Clemishire went public with her story last June, detailing moments of her childhood in Oklahoma, where she says Robert Morris molested her repeatedly. At the time, Morris was a traveling preacher and would stay at Clemishire's home. Aside from 2 alleged crimes in 1982, the indictment outlines similar instances in January of 1983 and
Once again, everybody, this is Trump's pastor, a guy who's been messing with children for decades. And Trump seems to always surround himself with people like this Robert Morris clown.
1985. According to court paperwork, it escalated when his victim was 13 or 14, highlighting incidents between January of 1983 and 1985, when Morris, quote, removed her clothing and rubbed his clothed body against hers while inside a parked car. On Wednesday, an attorney representing Cindy Clemishire released this statement to Fox 4. After almost 43 years, the law has finally...
43 years later, it took for this monster to be indicted. I wonder how many other young girls or boys that this clown mess with. I hope they all come out.
Caught up with Robert Morris for the horrific crimes he committed against me as a child. Now it is time for the legal system to hold him accountable. My family and I are deeply grateful to the authorities who have worked tirelessly to make this day possible and remain hopeful that justice will ultimately prevail. Last June, Morris stepped down from his position as senior pastor at Gateway Church in Southlake after Clemishire's allegations came to light. Morris is a well-known pastor nationwide, once a spiritual advisor to President Trump. A representative from Gateway had this to say in light of the breaking developments. We are aware of the actions being taken by the legal authorities in Oklahoma and are grateful for the work of the justice system in holding abusers accountable for their actions. We continue to pray for Cindy Clemishire and her family, for the members and staff of Gateway Church, and for all of those impacted by this terrible situation. So why all of these years later? Well, the Oklahoma Attorney General says that the statute of limitations did actually not apply to this case because the accused has never been a resident of that state. Today, we called numbers believed to be registered to Robert Morris, but nobody answered the line. Fox 4 left a voicemail, but have not received a response or any calls back.
So they finally found this monster. Finally caught him. So now Donald Trump's pastor has been arrested. Donald Trump's best friend, Jeffrey Epstein, was arrested and committed, air quotes I'm doing, suicide. And now Donald Trump won't release the Epstein files that they so advertised a couple of weeks ago that they were going to release, only to find out that what they released was heavily redacted. It was a scam, a sham. Donald Trump would never release those Epstein files because his punk ass is in that file as well. We already know that Trump was on the airplane with Epstein. We already know that he went to Epstein's island. We already know Trump said that Epstein liked young girls, and that Epstein and Trump had a party with just Epstein and Trump and a bunch of girls there. We all seen the pictures of how Trump hugged up with his own daughter, Ivanka. We also heard him say on that one radio talk show how if Ivanka wasn't his daughter, he'd be dating her. Trump is a pedophile. He surrounds himself with pedophiles. Anyway, guys, I want to thank you all for coming back to the Black Only News and Entertainment Network. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Peace, take care, and be safe out there. Watch your daughters around these people like this, because they will take full advantage of them if you allow them to.